is midday at the Jefferson General Store in Jefferson, Texas, and Milton Watts is holding court, reciting his poetry and telling tales of how he grew up and how he's lived his life here in the East Texas woods.
My assets like wax tokens that melt in my fist, red ink entries on a loser's list.
It's not often Milton ventures far from his boyhood home, but this time Milton's come to town to sell his wares. His book, Poet of the Pines, is an autobiography of sorts, the story of a self-made man, told in lines of rhyme.
Making a living, holding things together, defiant and triumphant over troubles I've known, ever braced against ill winds that have blown. I'd like to relive those experiences that I've lived through. And I found out that I could relive them by writing them down, don't you know?
25 years have come and gone since we first met this unlikely poet, running a fishing camp on the banks of one of East Texas' most scenic getaways.
Times have changed, as they inevitably do. The Lake of the Pines was created, and overnight the Watts family acres became more profitable just sitting underwater than they ever were cracking under the sun. Today, Milton Watts owns a fishing camp and trailer park. Where his daddy once plowed the soil, Milton now sells bait and tends to tourists. It's a part he never really wanted to play.
I see frivolity going on here. I see these people come down here, the girls in their bikinis. But at the same time I see that, I can see my mother out there dragging a 14-foot cotton sack.
Come on, boys, we'll get the bait here. 4, 6.
Milton still sells bait at his Island View Landing store.
Well, good luck.
He still scrawls lines of verse on pieces of white butcher paper, and after a quarter century of romancing his muse, Milton Watts has written a mountain of poetry, enough for the book his family and friends have for years encouraged him to put together.
Oh, I just started putting down things that I thought might interest people, you know, and because it interested me, and I can have the blues and can write my way out of it. I'd like to start over and see what would happen to me if this lake hadn't come along. Because cattle was my first love. I grew up wanting to be a cowboy.
The creation of Lake of the Pines took away Milton's dreams of being a farmer and a rancher, but its beauty has captivated and romanced him, inspiring the poetry he would have likely never conjured up if he were a cattleman. Listen, there is poetry whispering in the wind at Lake of the Pines. Milton Watts just wrote it all down.
Pine-covered hills, meadows, grassy pastoral scenes, variegated hues of beautiful greens, sovereign land through our hardy ancestors, through their sacrifices and years of toil. Be thankful as descendants that you own this precious soil.
We spent a day with Milton driving the length of his 700-acre kingdom on the water. We listened to the stories and experiences that have shaped his life, of how this lake made him the man he is, and how, after 40 years, this fiery-penned poet is still a bit bitter about how it's all turned out.
The ancestral acres I loved in Rome, the cattle ranch I didn't make, now all undone and under the dark waters of a federal lake. Only land through thwarted beginnings, later pitted against Lake of the Pines, erratic rise and fall. I find myself disillusioned, and I'm nearing the end of it all.
One word of warning about Milton's book of poetry. Like some of the classic poets, a few of Milton's verses are off-color and not meant for a family audience. But whether poignant or bawdy, his rhymes are inspired. the work of a true backwoods poet.
I think it's God-given, and I think he appreciates me as one of his children expressing it. Even some of it that's kind of vulgar. Not pornographic, just coarse. I've been criticized poetry societies for not writing this blank verse and so forth. Blank verse, free verse, sonnet, an occasional attempt, but I've never done it. Better the simple form I use. Verse that rhymes is mother goose. So that kind of gives you a blueprint of the kind of writing I do, don't you know?
There is an overall message in Milton's writing, one he hopes every reader will take away.
I want him to know the hard time that people that raised my generation went through raising us. We're said to be the greatest generation. I feel like that we were a great generation, and I want people to appreciate our parents for sacrificing the way they did so that we turned out as well as we did.
Can I quote one of my favorite writers, Steve?
Yeah.
I can close my eyes and see my daddy raising cotton right here where we're standing. He was a man.
He was a man that could raise 10 or 15 bales of cotton with a mule. And he wasn't able to buy a pair of overalls with what he had done.
And I want people to respect men like that, and I want people to remember men like that. Milton Watts.
Yeah, I like that writer. And I'm proud you too, Bob. I'm proud you like it. Because you're saying that and remembering that and putting it for the public as you have, you can't imagine what that's done for me, and I hope some of them.
There are people we have met out here on the back roads whose stories have stuck with us long after we've moved on down the highway. People for whom life itself is their passion, whose enthusiasm is contagious. Milton Watts is one of those unforgettable backroads characters whose personality and poetry will live forever in our hearts and in our minds. Milton Watts wants the world to remember he was here at Island View Landing on Lake of the Pines, and that he's had a full life doing the best he can with the hand he was dealt.
We like to be remembered for something, and I'll be remembered for that, just like you'll be remembered for what you do, Bob. You go along with that?
I think so.
All right, well, I think so too. I'm not sure of anything in this world, are you?